There we go. So welcome everyone to the COC Rapid Rehousing Workshop session number 3. We're going to be talking about locating clients that have been referred through coordinated assessment. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here at 9 in the morning on a Thursday to talk about this very, very important part of the work that you rapid rehousing providers do. This training is part of a little mini series targeted towards folks who work in rapid rehousing programs in Santa Clara County. It's also part of a larger series of annual trainings that Homebase provides free for providers in Santa Clara County. I want to introduce Homebase because I know some of you, but I don't recognize all of your names. So Homebase is a nonprofit. We work in Santa Clara County with the County Office of Supportive Housing to support you as providers, to support sort of strategy and thinking about the system as a whole. And as part of our support, we provide these trainings to you all on a variety of different topics. And when we're lucky, we get to work with experts from the community to bring you really strong content on, how to things that to support you in doing your job. My name is Eli, as you can see on the Zoom screen. I work with Homebase, and my colleague Nicole is going to be helping to facilitate the meeting today.
Hello.
And then as expert presenters, we have Oscar and Vicente from the Office of Supportive Housing. I'm gonna have them introduce themselves more fully later, but I wanna acknowledge that we're really lucky to have them to be doing most of the presenting today. So thank you both for being here. Before we dive in, I want to go over a few tech notes for this new Zoom world of trainings that we have. We really, really want to hear from you today, and we want you to be able to ask questions. That's a huge value of having our presenters, our expert presenters with us today, that you can, any question you have, you can run it by them and they can give you their thoughts on it. So to do that, we're going to be using a couple Zoom tools. The first and the main one is the chat box and the chat function. To find the chat feature, you can go to the little control bar or navigation bar or icon bar that you have. I have a screenshot of what it looks like up on the screen. It has a participants icon, it has a chat icon, and may have a couple other icons. If you can't see that bar, sometimes moving your mouse around on the screen will make it show up for you. So if you want to chat, if you want to use the chat, you can chat to everyone and give us your questions. If I ask a question and you want to respond, you can put your response in there. If you're having any tech issues, you can also ask about them in there. For tech issues, you can feel free to chat them to everyone, but you can also just go straight to Nicole because she's going to be our tech expert today. So I want to make sure everybody knows how to see where to get to the chat and how to use it. And I also want to learn a little bit more about you all and let you all get to know each other. So I'm going to ask you to respond to an icebreaker question. Everybody loves an icebreaker question. My question today, and I'm very curious about this, is what is your favorite fruit? And if you want to tell us why, I'd love to know why. What is your favorite fruit? Personally, I think mine is probably mango. That's a little bit new, but I have a housemate who's from Florida, and his mom and his grandma send mangoes when they're ripe, and it's just, there's nothing better. So that's my answer. Go ahead and find that chat box and type in, and I'll share some answers as they come in. Okay, so I'm seeing a vote for strawberries. That's a very strong fruit, especially in California during the summer. Haha, yes, Alicia, pineapples, nom nom, same. Absolutely. Oh yeah, okay, so not too fond of fruits. That's fair too, that's absolutely fair. Oranges, watermelon, couple of votes for oranges. Rhonda's into apples, very good. Yeah, I like to see the apples represented there. Nothing better than an apple pie. Loquats, definitely, they grow all over San Jose. A very nice local tree fruit. Cherries, especially when you can pick them yourself. I feel that. I think we had some cherry trees in my house when I was a tiny kid. Jackfruit. I've never had a jackfruit. Any other thoughts? Other favorite fruits? All right, so it looks like most of you, pomegranate. Oh, I forgot pomegranates. How could I forget pomegranates? Yeah, mangoes. Thank you, Janie. Uh, Dragon fruit is an antioxidant. Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Heard of that one. Raspberry in a martini. Very good. Off work hours, of course. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. It looks like we have mostly everybody's found the chat. I appreciate that. I feel like I know very important things about all of you as human beings, so I appreciate that. The other way that we're gonna ask you to interact, if you'd like to use this function, or the other option that you have, is if you want to use your microphone to ask a question with your human mouth, you can request to be unmuted. You're all muted right now, and we're going to ask you not to unmute yourself. But if you would like to share and you'd like to use your microphone, you can ask Nicole to unmute you. She'll see that and she can do the unmuting and then make sure you get muted again. That's just so we can manage the background noise and the crosstalk. So in order to raise your hand, you go to that same bar where you found the chat icon. You can click the participants icon, and that will pop up a little box that has the list of participants. And then you'll see this little row of icons at the bottom of that box. And if you click raise hand, that will raise your hand. Nicole will see it and you can talk. I'm not going to do another icebreaker. If you want to, later on when we're asking questions, or if you have a question, if you want to raise your hand, go ahead and do that. Okay. So the agenda for the training today, I hope you all feel welcomed and to a certain extent introduced. So we've done welcome and introductions. I'm going to do a quick background on the coordinated assessment system, because what we're talking about primarily today is how rapid rehousing providers are locating and can locate clients that have been referred to coordinated assessment. So I want to make sure we all share an understanding of what that is. And then we're going to have a presentation on doing just that by our rapid rehousing outreach experts. And we're going to have opportunity for Q&A at the end of the presentation. But if you have questions during the presentation, we have time for that. We have ample time in this training. So feel free to ask and on the chat, or raise your hand if you have a question. And we will just listen for a place that would be appropriate to interrupt. And we can interrupt the presenters and make sure you get your questions answered. And then there'll be a couple points also where I'm going to ask you to engage in a little discussion. Part of what I'm trying to do here is just be a good warm-up act for Oscar and Vicente, get you talking and get you thinking so that you can take full advantage of their presence here. Okay, so I'm going to dive in. The Coordinated Assessment System in Santa Clara County COC is a centralized or a coordinated way that we connect people who need housing support with the programs that can provide housing support. The way this works in the Santa Clara County COC is there are a large number of access points. There are a large number of places where someone can go to get the assessment, the initial assessment called the VI SPDAT, that helps us try to figure out what level of housing support is probably going to be the best fit and probably going to have the most chance of success for this client, given the unfortunately limited number of resources that we have in the community compared to the need. So there are a bunch of access points. At each of those access points, a client can show up, can receive the VI SPDAT initial assessment, which is then entered into HMIS, which is a countywide data system. And based on the assessment, clients are then referred in order of their assessed acuity, their assessed vulnerability based on the assessment. And those referrals can be to permanent supportive housing for clients that score in that range and are at the top in terms of priority. Can be to rapid rehousing or transitional housing if clients score in that range, and then come up to the top of that range based on their acuity. The purpose and the idea behind coordinated assessment system is to make sure that no matter where a client is, anywhere in the county, whether that's Gilroy or Morgan Hill or Sunnyvale or San Jose, anywhere a client is, they're being assessed in the same way. That's the goal. And also, anywhere a client is, they have access to any of the available housing resources across the community. So really, one of the goals of any coordinated assessment system is to make sure that geography, that ability to advocate and really, like, get the attention of a provider, um, and things like perceived ease of sort of overcoming barriers, that none of these things are obstacles, that we're really able to open up the system so that as many of our most vulnerable neighbors and community members can get access to the resources that are right for them. So that's my really quick explanation of what a coordinated assessment system is meant to do, just to get us all on the same page. If you haven't already been to the COC's coordinated assessment page on the website, it has a lot of written resources for you as providers, whether you're giving assessments or whether you're receiving referrals. So I highly recommend that you check that out. It's got some FAQ documents, it's got documents for clients, for use with clients, and it has some of the policies and things related to coordinated assessment. So that link is on the screen, and we'll send out these slides after the training. I wanted to point to one document that's on that website because we're home base and we love written policies and procedures because they're just so helpful. And the document I want to point to is the Santa Clara County Community Q Referrals Standard Location Practices. This is a little guide and really a sort of policy that lets you know the types of efforts you can be making to locate clients. I'm not going to go over what's in the document because Oscar and Vicente can talk about ways to locate clients much better than I ever could dream of doing. But I do want to point to this document because it's part of the policies that are related to coordinated assessment in Santa Clara County, and so it can be really helpful in for you in making sure that you are doing everything that the coordinated assessment participation in the coordinated assessment system expects of you in terms of locating clients. And then the whole purpose of this training is to help you understand how to do that. And I've also added the link to that particular document. Before we get into the excellent information, I want to acknowledge that we asked you all to identify some of the challenges, some of the things that make it difficult to locate clients. And one of the things we heard from multiple people was just right now, we're looking for creative ideas and tips for locating clients during COVID-19, during shelter in place, during a time when people need to be in housing even more than usual, which is saying a lot, and also where it's harder to interact with any human being in a safe way. And then the other responses that we heard are really, these are timeless challenges. These are challenges that we hear in almost every conversation about coordinated assessment and locating clients, that sometimes there's not great documentation of contact info in HMIS and that VA SPDAT or wherever. That contact info can be out of date, that sometimes phone numbers are disconnected, that clients go through multiple phone numbers pretty quickly, that clients just don't have email, so it can be hard to use those electronic methods to communicate directly with clients. At this point, I want to point you to that chat box or the raised hand function, because I have a question. I want to know, are there other significant challenges that you've seen, either maybe just once with a client or that you see over and over again that we haven't captured here? Is there anything else that makes it challenging to locate clients for you? I'm going to give you a couple, some time to type in that chat box. I know typing's not as quick as raising your hand in an in-person training. So just in case anybody has other challenges to offer, go ahead and type those in the chat box. I know you know where it is. Okay, so it looks like these might be the most common challenges. Maybe we're not missing anything. Okay, now I'm seeing, yeah, no friend or family numbers listed. Right, so maybe there's one contact number for the client, but there's no alternate contacts. There's no other people that you can reach out to. Yeah, it's definitely something we hear. Any other thoughts? Yeah, I've got some agreement on that one. It's a big one. Okay. The staff contact person not being clear. Yeah. So if there's like that, and Alicia, I think you're talking about maybe the person who did the assessment, or someone else who's worked with the client just not being identified. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When a staff member no longer works at the organization, so maybe the person who had contact with the client just doesn't work there anymore, and we know that there is, unfortunately, tends to be a lot of turnover with the organizations that you all work with for understandable reasons. So yeah, that all makes sense. And what I'm seeing is just a different things that particularly looking at info in HMIS, where those leads, those contacts that you're seeing in HMIS just run dry, right? You get to a point where there just is no more information. So yeah, no phone number, no photo, no common places listed, no contact info. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you getting into that chat box and sharing. I know that a lot of those things are really outside of like the information that's in HMIS specifically is outside of your control and really relies on the assessors and other folks working with the clients to be putting that information into HMIS. And so yeah, I just want to acknowledge that is a challenge and something that I know is being trained to all the time at these assessor trainings. So hopefully that's gonna be as also as people get more used to doing that in HMIS, that yeah, that gets a little bit, the quality continues to improve of that stuff in HMIS. Yeah, it's a great question, Sonia. I'm not sure if there's a way to remove folks from HMIS, but we can pass on that question when they move, to note that in HMIS when they no longer work with an organization. Okay. So keep those challenges in mind, and just generally keep your experience locating clients in mind as I pass over to Oscar and Vicente to for them to share their thoughts on the subject, and some tips and just some information also about what they're doing. And then as things come up, as you want to respond to something that they're saying, or you have questions, you know what to do. Go to that chat box or raise your hand. Okay, Oscar, Vicente, I'm going to pass over to you.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Oscar. Bear with me here. I'm new to this whole Zoom thing. I'm still one of those lucky few that are working in the field every day, and also I haven't actually done the rapid rehousing outreach specifically for that program for 2 or 3 months now because of the COVID. So I'm going to have to dust some cobwebs off, so bear with me. But just full disclaimer here. And a little bit about me, I've worked at nonprofits for the past 7 years or so. So I know I have a little bit of rapport with the community and such that's helped my cause here as well. And yeah, just happy to be here, happy to share this information with you in the hopes that this will help all of you find more people and get more of these people housed and off the street.
Hi, good morning. My name is Vicente, as you heard. And yeah, so I work here at Rapid Rehousing as well, rehab counselor, trying to locate clients that have qualified for rapid rehousing programs. And a little bit about myself, I have experience in the case management field. So before this, I did intensive case management with community solutions, working with the same population, getting them housed and keeping them housed, as well as I've done some like behavioral therapy and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. And yes, like Oscar, I'm excited to be here and let you guys know how and what has worked for us here at OSH with outreach.
Cool. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so yeah, I guess we already did a little introduction. Kind of wanted to talk about a few things that has worked for us so far. I would say that the biggest thing that has worked, if I could emphasize anything, is to establish relationships with our partner agencies. So getting to know other the staff that works at other places, you know, getting acquainted with them, and even at encampments too. Yeah, you know, you introduce yourself, you kind of sort of promote a presence, right? So that because you're more likely than not, you'll be going back to the same place. And so that's definitely worked for us. And also organization. I know that might sound very simple, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure how most of your programs operate, but we receive anywhere from, 15 to 30 referrals at a time. And so in order for us to continue to locate them effectively, we have to be very organized. And so sometimes in the field, especially if you go out to the field and you don't, we'll make phone calls or we'll go here and then you go back to the office, and there's been times where I forgot that I did something and I don't put it in HMIS. So what I've done is got my little handy dandy notepad and just write everything down as it happens. And so I don't forget, and so we can better communicate and finding said individual and things of that. Has worked very well for me. Anything else you want to add, Cynthia?
No, you got it.
Okay, cool. Next slide, please. Okay, so a part of the organization tactic, I suppose, is to kind of have a ritual. So again, when I first started kind of doing this kind of stuff, I would forget, the public alert obviously is like probably the most important thing, if anything, so that anytime anybody else logs into HMIS, as you may know, they will see that public alert and hence get in contact with the person trying to locate the client. And so part of the organization, as I said, is to have that ritual. So even creating a checklist probably for yourself or for a specific program, because I know we all have our own little ways of doing things, everything specific to the program. You may have different work hours or even teams that go out together. And so probably creating a checklist for yourself, just so you keep track of everything, seems to be very, very helpful. It has helped me quite a bit. It's helped Vicente and I just keep track of everything. And so obviously the first thing that you would have to do is to set the public alert. And of course the consents, because otherwise we won't be able to do much there. And if it is expired or expiring soon, please indicate in the public alert so that whoever gets in contact with the person can have them sign physically and then upload it into the HMIS. Anything else you want to add, Vicente?
No, just like you said, the whole public alert thing, it's like it's a big deal. It is like ties in with what Oscar said earlier with the building strong relationships and communication with other agencies, because it's just the main door, like the public alert is what sometimes puts information out there to other agencies, like, hey, we're looking for this client or that client, and just making sure you set that public alert, because most of the time sometimes clients are being looked for and we can't find them, and the public alert is what makes a huge difference, because maybe their contact information isn't getting updated, but they are receiving services at, like, I don't know, like West Valley Community Services or another agency, and you never know, they might see that public alert and be like, oh wait, like they're looking for you. So yeah, so that is all. I feel like the public alert is often overlooked. It really does make a difference.
Right. I mean, we've definitely found a couple of people just because of the public alert. Like even when it's run completely dry, that the public alert has actually gotten in touch with us. It's a question here. How do you set up public alert? Just refer to. We usually have a training manual that I know it can be a few steps. I have to come back to it here and there, especially since I haven't done it in a while. But I can connect with you offline to share that with you.
If you're in HMIS, you just have to go to the Notes tab. If you go to the Notes tab where you like write down all your attempts that you've located them and stuff like that, like just go to the Notes tab. It's the second, like, it's at the bottom. It just says set public alert. It's an option.
Oh, that's right.
Write it just like you would do a note.
Right. Just as if you would do a progress note. Right. It's all coming back to me. Okay. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So obviously, the first thing, we got to do a little digging into the HMIS. As you can see here in our picture, it kind of feels like we're kind of doing detective work in a sense, where kind of have to connect the dots and gather information. So normally, our phone number is what we usually do is like we just go through HMIS, right? We go every single possible detail that we can find. We write it down just on one place for that specific client and says, okay, we got this person has been at this program. This person hangs out a lot at Little Orchard, or they hangs out a lot at the Roosevelt Park, or this specific cooling center. They haven't been there in a few months, but we write it down anyways. And we even look at old VS PDATs, so that oftentimes clients have more than one, and we go back to the old ones and all the staff, the agency, right? The agency where they got the VS PDAT done, old phone numbers. We just try them all. We try everything. I mean, at one instance there was we dug really deep, and it was a VS PDAT from like 6 years ago or something, and I called the number, whatever, and it turned out that the contact was our client's ex-boyfriend, and he was very bitter that I called him, but I was able to, can you give me her current number? And he did. He gave me the number, and we were able to locate her in that sense. So, no information is too far out of reach. It's an attempt nonetheless, right? So if we have that information and document that we tried that, then it just goes to show that we did everything that we possibly could to find them, and that's all really we could do. And okay, so phone, right? So we make phone calls. We give them we usually call them like 2 or 3 times a day in the first day, right? And then we wait, a couple of days or a week. Again, like being organized, right, to come back to it and be consistent with calling them again the week afterwards, and the week after that, probably like 3 to 4 weeks, I would say, is reasonable time once you stop trying to contact them via phone. Okay, the emergency contacts, community outreach. Also, if there are no phone numbers, right, so we can do a community outreach. The most common places, as we all know, it's probably like Little Orchard, right, all the shelters. Like, this is where the establishing a relationship with the agencies comes into play. So, you go introduce yourself to everybody, and also, if everybody's an HMIS user, right? If you are an HMIS user, let's say, right, Eli, you're an HMIS user, right? So if I talk to you, I'd be like, yo, like, we can share information, right? We can share information. There's no restriction on that. So just so everybody knows, we're all on the same team, and we can share information to help locate the client and such. Let's see. So that's a big part, right? Establishing a relationship with all partner agencies. Make it a point to go talk to them. Make it a point to introduce yourself. Make it a point to be coming back there here and there, or talking to them over the phone, like, hey, it's me again. Do you know anything about this person? And that sort of thing. And what else? Anything else you want to add about that, Vicente?
No, everything's good.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So now when we're trying to go to encampments. This is a whole nother animal, right? So we're going outside. We're going to kind of like uncharted territory to the general public, right? A lot of people, are kind of scared of homeless people. They're kind of like, ooh, they kind of, don't even want to look at them and things like that. But at the end of the day, they're human beings too, right? And so the biggest thing I would say is to approach them just like another human being, like just approach them in a non-threatening way with confidence, right? Because if you're kind of like, hesitating, or they'll get a bad vibe from you, right? Just like with anybody else. Like if you're approaching me and you're looking kind of shady, or unconfident in yourself, then I'm like, oh, what's this person doing? Like, what are they doing around here? Like, so I would say that, announcing yourself as soon as comfortably possible, right? So if you make eye contact and you acknowledge each other, raise your hand, hello, say hello. Hello is the most, hello is free. Whether they don't say hello or not, it's the most efficient way to get into in a conversation, right? A conversation with somebody, in a way to invoke dialogue between both of you and to establish communication. So I would say that's a really, really big thing because, even if they don't show up in the place that you're looking, you can definitely talk to other people there, right? So the more people you talk to, theoretically, right, with the numbers game, then the more likely you are to find your person or your client. And the same thing with the people around, get people around, right? So there was this one time where we were somewhere in the boonies, right? We're kind of South County, like Gilroy area. And there was like nothing around, and there was just trash, and it looked like there was like a human hand on the ground, but it ended up being fake, like for a Halloween costume. But then there was this taco guy there. In his roach coach, right? And so I talked to him, like, hey man, have people come around here? Yo, dude, like, where the homeless people hang out? And he told me exactly where they were, so that helped a lot. And I also wanted to share with you guys, share what you say to encampments. So a lot of the times what I've learned is like, oh, hello, outreach, right? Like that's a commonly used phrase, like outreach, is anybody home, right, in the tent, kind of as a non-threatening way. That seems to be pretty effective. And if they don't want to talk to you, they'd be like, no, like, okay, not a big deal. So I wanted to see if you guys have any phrases like that, outreach, hello, outreach, good morning, outreach, good afternoon, outreach, is anybody home? That's been the most thing that I use. If they're in the tent and I can't see them, that's what I would try to say, to see if I can, establish some communication with them, especially since they can't see us. We're in the tent. We don't want to, threaten them to make them feel like they're getting cleared out or anything of the sense, like that. And also the last thing here is the spidey sense. So, right. So it's really, really easy and comfortable to say this. Yeah, just go out there and talk to everybody, right, from the office and from right here. And other things to consider is I'm a male, right? If you're a female, and you should never go by yourself, things like that. Always feel your gut feeling, right? So the spidey sense, it's just like, if you don't feel safe, then just don't. Just get out of there. It's not worth it. Always remember that. There's been times where I look at Vicente looks at me, like we just get that feeling, right? And we just get out of there. Oftentimes there's a safe word too. If you guys have a safe word, so something that you guys can say if you're working as a team, right? To say amongst each other, so that if things get a little, shady, or if you're feeling a little unsafe, to always have that in your back pocket just in case. I know this is more about finding people, but I cannot stress enough the safety thing about it all. And don't approach somebody if they don't seem approachable. Somebody, they could be under the influence, or just use your good judgment all around. And when in doubt, ask somebody, if you're with the partner, like, hey man, like, what do you think? Like, let's move on, or whatnot. So I would say that's also a very good thing to have, a good tool. Anything else you would like to add, Chente?
No, it's all good.
All right, next slide, please. All right, outreach attempts and reasonable attempts. So the whole thing about the reasonable attempts is that, we got to give them a chance to get back to us, right? So even if they have a phone number and they don't answer, sometimes they have like, like a Google Voice or something, right? They have these phone numbers that you can create online, and they're only accessible via Wi-Fi. And so if you continuously call them, every week, it gives them a chance to get back to you. Oh, the pepper spray. That's a really cool one. I mean, why not? It's just, at this point, it's just to protect yourself. Like, in reality, like, nothing is worth your life. So if you feel safer carrying pepper spray with you, then by all means, I'm not going to tell you that's okay, because I'm not, in terms of your job, but for your safety, yes, I would, So, all right. So outreach. Okay, where was that? With the outreach attempts. Okay, right. So like I was saying with the Google Voice and things like that, and Facebook, right? Wi-Fi, all those things use Wi-Fi, right? So even if they don't have cellular service, like sometimes they run out of minutes or whatever. I don't know how it works nowadays, but or they run out of battery, right? Their phone dies and they don't have any ways to charge it. And then especially now with the COVID thing too, a lot of places are closed and there's really nowhere for them to charge their phone. And that could be also, they could just be stranded somewhere and or feel pretty comfortable where they're at, don't have to leave, you know, for a while, and or no need to get into contact with anybody. And so that's also why we give them some time for them to get back to us. And also in the same sense with the visiting encampments too, right? So if they're there, you want to make multiple visits to the place where they hang out to give them a chance to kind of be around there. And if you don't get to talk to anybody, then it's also good to talk to when you come back again and you see somebody else and ask them to talk to them again. Like, hey, you know, like, have you seen this person? Or do you know where, you know, unhoused people hang out around here, you know, just to collect more information. And you can write all that down, you know, put that in your documentation so that shows that you're trying, right? That you're doing everything that you can, you know, even if you end up getting nothing, it still shows that you tried, right? Same thing with other avenues, right? So for example, we could check like the inmate locator, right? The inmate locator is to see if somebody's in custody. So if the person hasn't been seen for a very long time, then it's probably could be a good idea to check the inmate locator to see if they're in jail, right? And document that too, right? So check, you know, inmate locator, no information found, things of that nature. Okay. All right. I should be doing a time frame. Right. Okay. Next slide, please. Or anything else you want to add, Vicente?
No, just the last bullet point, giving them timeframes. I think that that's really important, something that shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, it's happened a couple times to Oscar and I where we're getting desperate to find someone. We've been looking for them for a couple of weeks, sometimes even a month. And it's important to give them a time frame because sometimes you do end up finding them, you know, like you don't want to give up too easily. I mean, of course, we do have right there, you know, what is reasonable? Reasonable is like 3 to 4 weeks, but make sure that you are giving them that opportunity because, like Oscar said, some of them have that Wi-Fi number, right? What happens if they do really need the services? They need to be enrolled in a program, but they just can't seem to find access to the Wi-Fi that they need, and won't get back to you until their next trip to like the library. Or especially right now that we're going through the shelter in place and the curfews and everything, that libraries aren't open and stuff like that. That's just another obstacle. So you want to make sure you give them a reasonable amount of time to get back at you, not just, oh, well, I made my 3 attempts, 3, 4, 5 attempts, still haven't come back to me, close out. Like, no, you know, let's be reasonable. Let's have some expectations for clients as well, just as we have for ourselves, and let them get back to us, get in touch with us when they can. We all have different uh, pace of life, so that's something to be considered as well. And yeah, just like we say, document everything on HMIS. That makes a huge difference as well, because let's say that this client has already been referred in the past, and his previous attempts have been documented on HMIS. Then sometimes those are like clues for you, you know, to look for them. So yeah, so that's it.
Cool. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. So, if no contact is made, review HMIS documentation. Make sure to have every attempt documented. Right. So, at the end of the day, if you can't find them, it's okay. Right. It's okay if there's a completely dead end. If there's nothing, right? It's okay. Right. There's going to be times where we get VI SPDAT and it literally is completely blank, right? Like at the very end, it's blank. There's nothing, or who completed assessment, like Bob, and then that's all it says, right? And there's like no history of you know, programs or whatever, but you can still call, like, you know, Little Orchard, and then just say that you tried. And all you got to do is just put that you tried, right? Just document everything that you tried to do. You looked at, you can even say look through programs, right? I looked through all HMIS, could not find anything, reviewed VI SPDAT and found that there was no information. You could document to that. You know, it's not those things are out of our control, right? And so all we can do is just document our attempt and see what we can do about it. All right, and if contact is made, document client interaction, right? All documentation, document, and update the info location. Right, and so a big thing about this too is the good thing that we have this dialogue open for us together is that the biggest change, it is frustrating, right? It can be frustrating when we try to find and when we see Bob at the end. It's like, okay, well, you know, it seems to be the case for some places, or, you know, people, not everybody knows what the VI SPDAT is, right? Like you talk to the community, right? Talk to your friends. Hey, you guys heard of the VI SPDAT? Like nobody knows what that is, right? And so that kind of translates to our agencies as well. And so a big part of this whole thing is for us to educate the public about it, right? So educate each other, educate your coworkers, colleagues, anybody who's interested in helping the homeless community, you know, so that they know that we're trying to do something about it, right? We're trying to get them off the street. We're trying to give people an opportunity. And in order to do that, we have to make sure we document everything, you know, as detailed as possible. Like, where do they hang out? Like, I hang out here at this specific place. Like there was one time that Vicente and I got this VI SPDAT, and the location was so specific that it was too good to be true. Like we're like, there's no way. It says at the Kellogg's plant, right? So like, oh, like the Kellogg's plant. I didn't even know there was a Kellogg's plant around here, but we scoured like blocks and blocks all the way around the Kellogg's plant. But he was literally right at the address where it said he was, and we just had to like look the other way, and it was, you know what I mean? So that if that could happen more often, that would be great. So I think it starts with us, right? It starts with you know, educating each other. Like, hey man, let's take this picture. Let's make an effort to take the picture. Like instead of, man, you know, we'll do it next time. Like, you know, like ask them, just write everything down and let everybody know how important the VI SPDAT is, because even me myself, right? Like 6 years ago, I was filling these things out, and my agency didn't train me in what a VI SPDAT was. And so I'm like, what does this even do? Why is it asking all these weird questions? You know, like I didn't know what it was, and then come to know that somebody had called me from the county at that point, and they told me what it was. And so since then I knew what it was, and so I think that would be a big step forward for us to make the job easier for each other, right? Anything else you want to add, Vicente?
No, everything's been covered.
All right. The next slide, please. Okay. All right, and so just like we won't go too much into the homelessness certification. I think that's a whole nother thing in of itself. And we do have the link here for you to see the forms and all that stuff. All right, next slide, please.
I'm gonna jump in for a couple things, if that's okay. First,
yeah, sure.
If anybody on this call works with a COC-funded rapid rehousing program, specifically with COC funding, I want to let you know that we are actually going to be having in June a series of intro to COC compliance trainings, and one of them will specifically be on documenting eligibility for those COC funded programs. So great tie-in, thank you for that. And we'll be talking about the forms that are linked here. So look out for that invitation, and we hope to see some of you there if you work at a COC funded program. And then secondly, I'm interested in, so when you're denying a referral, am I correct in understanding that part of that, like when you're doing that denial, part of that process is contacting the Office of Supportive Housing, reaching out to the matchmaker before that happens?
We kind of just document it and we inform our program manager, right, Vicente? You tying on
Yes.
that?
Yeah, it's basically what you said, Eli. We do let the matchmaker know what, like, you know, like make sure that we document all the attempts and let them know why it didn't work out and why we're denying them, as well as the reason why we do that too is because we want to make sure whether we're going to refer back to the queue or not. So that's also another reason. But yes, we do tell our matchmaker.
Great, thank you. All right, that's all.
All right. Next slide. Okay. So these are some recent challenges that we've had. Vicente and I have discussed this. We seem to encounter these very, very commonly, and we wanted to share that with you. Just we also do have trouble finding clients. The
Right.
biggest
And
thing,
so I want
yeah,
to talk actually about this slide real quick.
yeah,
Um, these are so yeah, you've been hearing right what works for us and all this positivity, right? But of course, we like everyone else, we have challenges as well. We have denied clients, we have not found clients and stuff like that. So I just want to say some of the challenges are motivating clients. We also try and create a timeline and communication with other agencies. I think this has been said before, but we're going to talk about it more right now. And then we've been hearing a lot of COVID-19, which has also been hard for us. So with motivating clients, sometimes we do find a client, right? And we have to deny because they say they don't want the opportunity. What we mean by this is sometimes it takes just a little bit of talking and patience with the client to help them understand what rapid rehousing is, what opportunities this opens up. Sometimes it's not enough to just tell them, hey, you've been pulled from the community queue and you have a housing opportunity. Sometimes that's not enough for them and they're going to deny that. And so what we need to do is as providers is to make sure that we're educating them on what rapid rehousing is. I'm sure, or I don't know how many of you, but we've ran into a lot of times where they just deny because they're like, oh, you're not permanent supportive housing. No, then I don't want you. And so that's where we as providers need to make sure that we're educating the clients what rapid housing means and and shoot down all of those misconceptions and motivate them because sometimes they are going through a lot and we've heard it before actually. I don't know if Oscar remembers, but a client would insist on telling us that he was actually going through a lot at the moment, and so he didn't want the stress of a housing opportunity to interrupt, like what he had going on anymore. And so what we did was just give him a little bit of time. We had a couple like appointments with them where we were just not being, like not instigating, not being annoying, not just forcing a program on him, but just to make sure that he understood and educating him and telling him, well, like this like you might not think about it, but this might actually relieve some of the stress that's going on in your life. Like at least you'll have that off your shoulders. You'll be housed, or you'll have a case manager that can help you out with other things that are stressing you out as well. Like who knows? Like if one of his stressors was he couldn't find his social security card. Okay, well, boom, having a case manager is in a sense helping you out with that. You never know what they're going through, and just the motivation part is the huge. It's key in enrolling clients. I want to say, creating a timeline is always effective with clients because sometimes if you're just not being specific with them and telling them, yeah, you're going to be enrolled, in a client's mind, since they're out in the streets, they're thinking, okay, I'm gonna be enrolled, okay, I'll be housed tomorrow. And so you just tell them, yeah, let's enroll you in rapid rehousing, and then tomorrow comes and it's like, okay, well now let's work on, if applicable, right, verification of disability or certification of homelessness. And they're like, wait, why am I not housed yet, right? You get, okay, well, when we're done with this documentation, okay, cool. So I'll get housed, I don't know, next week. Next week comes and you're still working on some documentation, right? Or even you're barely starting the warm handoff to the partner agency, or sometimes even just your own intake. That comes around and they're like, why am I not housed yet? That's, sometimes that brings them down and makes them think that they're just never going to get housed. So creating a timeline, being realistic with the client, letting them know that you also have your goal is to house them just as much as their goal is to be housed. So just creating that timeline of step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then being realistic with them that hey, sometimes this takes 2 to 3 weeks or a month, whatever. Like that makes a huge difference, and also show your sense of urgency to get them housed as well. Like it said before, we all have a common goal, and if the client doesn't see your sense of urgency to house them, if it's just you canceling appointments, or you guys just can't come up with like a common uh, time and day to meet up, then they're gonna feel like they're not being heard, or they don't even like want to get housed. uh, Communication with other agencies, we've been saying it a lot, but we have because it is important. uh, there's been a lot of misconception with what can be shared and what cannot be shared, and we've gone to some agencies where they don't want to disclose information because we don't have uh, a release of information, which is okay if they have their own, like release of information. But if we're all in HMIS, we're all HMIS users, and we all have the same release, the same ROI, that is uploaded there for every client after they take the VIs for that, then let's work together. Let's collab. Like it's the ROI is already signed, so let's just be able to help each other get clients' house. We have the same goal, and it'll help make the process go faster. Uh, and just maintain that communication, because it's a common thing that a lot of clients are obviously going to go to Orchard, right? Or they stay at JSI, MSI, and all of that. So just maintaining the communication as well. It's not just a one-time thing. Um, and yeah, boom, outreach is in a competition. We have a common goal. Let's house people. And then the last one, COVID-19 shelter in place has been difficult, but it shouldn't like just stop our outreach attempts. I get it, it's easy for us working in the office to be like, hey, let's have a Zoom meeting. Hey, let me call you real quick. Let me send this email, or shoot a text. But clients, making that effort is, well, it's an excuse. I get it. You don't want to meet face to face with some people, but if you're following the social distancing, staying 6 feet apart, what Oscar and I have been doing is we make sure that we carry um, hand sanitizer, Lysol, disinfectant spray, like all of that in our car, as well as gloves and masks, and extra ones for clients if they need them. And sometimes we just meet them in the car. Like we're in the car and the client is outside. We tell them to keep a safe distance and just let them know what they need to hear, and then that's it. It shouldn't really just halt outreach. Of course, we want to limit that because we like. I'm not a health expert. I'm not a doctor. We want to be safe and we want to follow what the doctors say, but at the same time, we try and still uh, show an effort in housing people and how can we approach them, because um, they're desperate to get out the street. So it shouldn't just fully halt outreach. So those are some recent challenges we've been having that I'm sure you guys are waiting to hear, because it's just what has worked with us, positivity. But we all have our ups and downs. So if there's anything Oscar would like to add.
No, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think this is also the slide for questions. If you guys have any questions, anything like that, not only just like what hasn't worked for you guys and all that, but if you guys feel free to also share what has worked, what has
Okay.
worked for you guys, if we didn't
Oh,
cover it as well. Like it's also great to hear from all you guys say how your process has been working.
Yeah. Vicente, your audio was going in and out there, but I think what you were saying was this is a point where we're opening up for questions. And like, let us know, you can go ahead and put in the chat box or raise your hand if you have questions, want to share things that have been challenges, but also, I think this is really important, if there are things that are working for you, if there are things that you're doing that are good and you want to share them, do that too. Does that cover it?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
awesome. Yeah. So any questions? Anything come up that you're thinking, why I'm not quite sure how I would do that, or that sounds like a really good thing, but I don't know how, or other things that you're dealing with, or other strategies that you have that you want to share. Go ahead and put them in the chat box now. Okay, we have a question. Does the ROI include consent to have Valley Medical disclose patient information? For example, trying to locate a patient to Valley Medical, and the social worker, will they be able to disclose where to get alerts or information about how to find the client if they're in the hospital? The client shows up to the hospital. I think that's the question.
okay. Well, initially I would want to say no, since they're probably abiding by their own ethics and guidelines. So, and HIPAA is a very it can be a very specific thing, or with specific laws, with specific people you can talk to and all that stuff, as we know. But the bottom line is, if they are an HMIS user as well, then they can share that information with you. So it all depends if they are, and it could be difficult to navigate who is and who isn't, depending on what their role is and in the hospital, right? So I would imagine that a nurse probably isn't an HMIS user, but a medical social worker is. And so it all depends on who you talk to and maybe even just say, hey, are you an HMIS user? I'd probably start with that, the dialogue with that thing.
Yeah, perfectly said. Oscar said it perfectly. As long as they're HMIS users, they can disclose that information, and also it's up to their, like it's up to them whether they want to or not because of, I'm not gonna repeat what Oscar said. But also, I mean, if you think about it, if they are HMIS users, they're only disclosing where they're at. They're not gonna disclose any medical challenges or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I don't see why that would be a challenge.
Yeah. So
Right.
one of the things that I'm seeing on a private chat is that sometimes staff, and I would imagine this particularly applies to hospital Valley medical staff who aren't quite as tied in, that sometimes staff ignore public alerts if they don't understand what the alert is saying or what it's about. Is there any kind of template that you all use in your public alerts to indicate why you're searching for the client or what's going on, or anything you would recommend including?
Oh, good one. We always do, this is for us, right?
Sorry?
This is for us, right? It's a
Yeah.
question for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always include all of our contact information, very detailed with our titles, and as well as the goal. We make sure to put the goal in the note in the public alert. We don't just put client is being looked for, right? We put client is being looked for rapid rehousing opportunity, or client has been looked to, has a housing opportunity with the Office of Supportive Housing. Sometimes even putting our agency, like the Santa Clara County Office of Supportive Housing, helps. Um, it would just make sure we send the message across like that, very detailed. Um, and I mean, I don't think you can get any more specific than that because we need to get in touch with the client, see what their needs are, but just making sure that we're being clear on why we're looking for them. I think that would help. Anything else, Oscar?
No, yeah, I mean that's really well said. I mean, in the same way, kind of, I've seen public alerts that says told for housing. It's like, okay, what does that really mean, or what? If somebody saw that, it's like, okay, right, yeah. So, yeah, just being detailed is perfect. Yeah, nothing else to say.
So we have a question. So Jenny says that when she volunteered at Red Cross shelter during fires, they had similar problems and they had a bulletin board to post messages for people to find and be found. Could something like that be available in centrally located areas where they're encampments or shelter? That's a great question. And I don't know if Oscar and Vicente, you have anything to say to that, but I think it's a good suggestion, and I for one will pass that on to folks who are always interested in coordinated assessment suggestions.
Actually, that is a really great idea. That's a good thing to have read. I think Oscar, what has worked for Oscar and I is we also always leave our business cards, or we leave notes, and that way, and we've become frequents at certain encampments. Like there's like an encampment or two where they already know us, because we leave so many business cards. And sometimes they're like, oh no, I do know this person. He lives like 2 tents down, right, or something like that, and they know where to find us. That helps a lot. It's in a sense kind of like. It's similar to that, except I feel like that's great. That would be, just an encampment setting up like a little area, right? But for when it doesn't work like that, Oscar and I have definitely had success with leaving our business cards, being open to leaving notes, our phone numbers, best time to reach us, letting other people, in encampments know why we're looking for them, and all of that. That has worked for us, right, Oscar?
Right, yeah, totally. I mean, like Vicente said, that's a really awesome idea. Like, it's great to be creative. We got to find all kinds of little ways to find them. I mean, the only way I see that not working is just, the whole HIPAA thing. If you put somebody's name up there, I mean, we've talked about trying to create a hub, right? A hub for all of them to come and to check on their VSPDAD or to see if they've been polled, something to that effect. We've been discussing it, and that's a great idea. And like Vicente said, the business card thing seems to be a nice little way around it. Kind of like if somebody wants to give you the whole HIPAA thing, right? So well, then you leave a message, right? So if we do encounter resistance, right? Oh, here comes another county goon. We don't want to talk to them, kind of thing, right? And like we'll just leave a message, right? So that goes around the HIPAA thing. So if this person is here, or if they ever come back, just have them give me a call, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a suggestion that I saw pop up on the chat, that just leaving a message like that, please invite the client to contact me at such a number for information on a referral to rapid rehousing program. Yeah, that seems like that would really help, especially if with that Valley Medical staff who aren't HMIS users who are like, I don't want to tell you anything. They don't have to tell you anything if they can pass it on. It makes sense. Any other questions, comments? Okay, when OSH Outreach are locating the referred clients, do you tell other folks like shelters, clinics, et cetera, the reason that you're looking for the individual? Which I think you,
Uh, that was so when we're looking for them and they ask what's the reason we're looking for them, right?
yeah,
Um, yeah, we just let them know that it's, for housing opportunity. We don't get too detailed. Um, it's just making sure that we help them understand, like the housing opportunity was brought up, by the VI Spera, and then that's it. That's all. Not
okay,
much more than that.
yeah. So yeah, but you keep it limited. You're not
Yes.
giving too much information.
Right, and also if you keep the message simple too, it's also easier to pass along the message. Because the rapid rehousing whole thing, it's also a very long word or a long phrase, and we just kind of like sum it up to something simple and easy to pass along.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Well, we've got some folks agreeing in the chat that housing opportunity or potential housing opportunity seem to be phrases that work well. That's good.
Right.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions?
I have a comment actually that just popped in my head. So with the whole COVID thing, it's just a thought to share with y'all, and in the hopes that it might help us. But since the whole COVID response, we've, as a whole, right, as a team, have housed over, 600 people, 1,200 people in total, right? 600 people in hotels, 1,200 people total, including shelters, right? So I'm thinking that since we're all there, we could all probably just kind of collaborate and get to know the staff at each shelter and kind of, start that. There's an opportunity for us to try to establish those relationships with the new staff, right? Because we have lots of new staff that just came on to the shelters and started to talk to them. And so it'll probably be, theoretically, it could be easier to find some of our referrals if we just kind of make a little round around all these shelters and the motels, right? Whoever, we recently started assigning case managers and supervision to these sites, right? So if we can go over there and see if they're there, you can probably send me an email, see what I can do, see if I can get into contact with them and see if we can, if we have them at those shelters. So this is just a thought, but in the hopes that this might be an opportunity for us to house even more people, so.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, that's a great point that we potentially have more people in sheltered locations now than we have ever. And that can be a great opportunity, like you said, to know where people are. Yeah. Okay, so we have a client, this is from the chat, we have a client that is not eligible for the rapid rehousing program, but find that they're eligible for another county program. What is the process for me to refer them to a program that best suits them? It's a great question. And Oscar and Vicente, if you know an answer to that, feel free to chime in. I'm also I know we have a couple folks on the chat who might have answers to that. So it's if the referral, it turns out that that client's not eligible for the program they were referred to, what would happen then?
And this
Well,
specifically for like, okay, so this specifically like rapid rehousing or permanent supported housing, or maybe another rapid rehousing program that might work best for them than the one that they're currently being referred to.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so would this be like they're not eligible for your rapid rehousing program, but you want to see if they're eligible for another rapid rehousing program, or they're not eligible for rapid rehousing and you think they're best suited for PSH? Okay, so it's rapid rehousing.
Rapid, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, what Oscar and I do is not too much about this. I mean, we're not, like you said, it's not something we typically do, but always like goes back to when we talked about the matchmaker. When we deny them, we need to know whether we're referring back to the queue or not. It's always great to let our matchmaker know and tell them, hey, they don't qualify for this. Or maybe they do qualify, like the question says, or the statement says, like maybe they do qualify, but you need the best suited for this program. Well, maybe make a note, we need to deny and make sure to refer them back to the queue so that they're not just like um, just forgotten or just denied period from a housing opportunity. And it's like Alicia said, explaining to the matchmaker, yeah, that definitely helps. Um, I know that that's how it could work for rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing. That's what for Oscar and I. Just honestly, like I can get. It's only been like one time that that's ever really happened. I know that if it were probably from rapid rehousing to PSH, that has a whole different process.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, that's
yeah,
it.
it sounds like regardless, that step of before you deny, just reaching out to the matchmaker so they know and can help you work through what the best next step is. I want to speak to a little bit to the what if you have a rapid rehousing a client that was referred to rapid rehousing that you believe is not going to be best served in rapid rehousing and is going to be best served in PSH. There is actually a process set up for that in the community-wide policies and procedures and the coordinated assessment policies. And it generally the takeaway I think is if a client is referred to rapid rehousing, unless there is a significant change in their circumstances that would impact their VI-SPDAT score and could potentially get them, in a different range, it's unlikely that clients are going to be able to get a PSH referral ever. But there is a process. If a client is enrolled in rapid rehousing and is not going to be successful, and you're getting towards the end of your time with that client, and it's really clear, if you have documented that client's eligibility for permanent supportive housing before you enroll them in rapid rehousing, then there is a process for letting the Office of Supportive Housing know that this client is not going to be successful in rapid rehousing. We think they need PSH. And then OSH can help you figure out, is there even a PSH resource available for this client, and start working through that. So I think the big takeaways there are you really have to have documented their PSH eligibility when they enrolled in rapid rehousing, which can sometimes be a hard thing to do. And that just has to do with you're not allowed to transfer them if they weren't eligible before. Um, yeah, and then just letting OSH know as soon as you think this is what's going to be needed so that they can work with you to figure out a path forward. It's a lot more complicated when that happens. Yeah. Right. Any other questions? Okay. Not seeing any other questions coming in, but I'm going to keep an eye on. Oh, no. Did your lights go out?
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
so the potential power outage. Um, I have a couple summarizing comments, and so if questions come up while I'm talking, we do have some more time with our presenters, so just put them in the chat. I wanted to call back to a few things that I think are just really important, and I wanted to emphasize. One is, Oscar, I love that you mentioned using checklists at the beginning of your presentation, because we know that that is one of the best ways to make sure that you're not going to forget anything, and that just generally that things across an agency are done consistently. But at Homebase, we often really push checklists. There's some interesting research that's been done with hospitals about the ways that checklists actually have reduced patient mortality rates at hospitals, just the use of checklists. So thank you for bringing that up. Once you figure out your process and what you need to do to be really thorough, put it in a checklist so you know you're being consistent. I want to call back to the public alert. There was a question about how to do public alerts. And I want to point specifically to the Santa Clara County HMIS webpage. There's the Clarity Help Center that has instructions on how to do a public alert. So it is in the notes section of HMIS. If you want more specific instructions, you can find it on the Santa Clara County HMIS page, the Clarity Help Center. And then finally, some of our coordinated assessment folks have noted that, just to emphasize the importance of, before you deny a referral, it is pretty important to reach out to the OSH matchmaker before you do that denial in HMIS. My understanding is that that's because if the denial was, it shouldn't have been a denial, something else should have happened, it's difficult technically to roll that back. BitFocus has to do it. So it's just better to be in communication with the matchmaker. If you think that a client, you're going to need to deny a referral, talk to the matchmaker, let them know why, have all of your attempts, of course, documented, and then they'll let you know what the good next steps are for that. Okay, I didn't see any other questions or comments. So Oscar, Vicente, is there anything else you want to add to wrap up?
I don't have anything. Just here's my contact information, and Oscar's as well. Feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to follow up with us on anything. If you guys are doing outreach and think we might be able to help you, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just feel free to reach out, and we have been very busy lately just because of the whole COVID thing, doing all kinds of other stuff. But I will get back to you, when time allows. So feel free to contact me or email me, yeah, so for whatever questions. And
we do have one question. So is the question, how can you refer clients to Oscar and Vicente? Or is that some other services you're trying to refer folks to in the Department of Rehab?
You mean like
is it
for, like, drug and alcohol, or?
Could you, actually, when you have so when you have clients that have severe mental health needs, are there like services in the Department of Rehab that you'd like to refer them to? Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. So we have the county behavioral health services, where we have the mental health call center, and we have what's called Gateway for substance abuse services. If I remember the number right off the top of my head, it's 1-800-288-9919 for substance abuse services. But I can find the link here. You just type in Google Santa Clara County mental health call center, and you'll be given the two numbers, one for mental health and one for substance abuse. And I think Vicente mentioned it the other day that, or we didn't mention it during the presentation, but when you meet them firsthand, like, you don't have to be their case manager, right? It's good to let them know that you're not their case manager. But however, in order to keep them engaged, we can do little things for them, right? So we just like help them maybe spend like an extra 15 minutes if you can, or not, to sit there with them and have them call the call center, or if you don't think they're able to, they need support, right? Sometimes they need a little push for them to get going. Otherwise, they would have called them already. But or just give them the number, so in the hopes that they would call, because I know the mental health call center can be difficult. You have to wait a long time. Once you finally do talk to somebody, they just schedule an appointment with them for a couple of weeks later. So it can be difficult, but the numbers are there, and there is help available at no cost to them.
Yeah, thank you for that. So related to that, and also related to another question in the chat, does your program, so Oscar, Vicente, do you help assist clients with finding employment? I'm going to say no. You probably don't do a lot of connecting rapid rehousing clients to employment, but that gives me a great lead in, unless that's wrong. Do you guys?
No, yeah,
you're
we
right.
like
We may have a couple resources, but
yeah. So that gives me a great lead in. We have the previous two rapid rehousing workshops. The first one was on connecting clients to employment, and specifically on the job train presented on their work that they're doing in Santa Clara County, and they are going to be the primary source of employment development and job search stuff in Santa Clara County. I know that they're hoping to do a follow-up training to that. And then the second rapid rehousing workshop session that we did was on mental health services and substance use services in Santa Clara County. So there's presentations on access to mental health and the services that are available, and substance use and the services that are available for that. Both of those trainings, the recordings and slides are either already on the COC website or they'll be posted very soon. So when we send out we'll also follow up with an email to the COC and the SPN listservs with the training materials for this training. All of the training materials are on the same website. So if you go to the COC website, find the training materials for this training, you'll also see the recordings of those two trainings that cover those two topics, mental health and employment. So I hope those are helpful. Okay. All right, well, I think unless there are more questions, which I'm not seeing, we're gonna wrap up. I wanna thank everybody for your time today and also for the work that you all do every day. It is incredibly important and we thank you for that. If you have questions for us, if you have requests for other types of trainings, if you have questions about your programs, your federal grants, anything like that, always feel free to email us. That's our team email, so you'll get an answer from someone as quickly as we can. We're definitely want to be here for you. As Nicole mentioned, or as I neglected to mention, we'll be sending out a feedback survey following the training. So we really appreciate any feedback you can provide us on that so that we can continue to improve, particularly in this time of Zoom trainings. So thank you, and thanks Oscar and Vicente. We appreciate your time as well.
All right, no props. Live long and prosper.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. A great way to end. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good day.